The Discovery. The celestial seeker drifted silently through the void, its sleek hull designed to absorb rather than reflect sensor suites. Commander Zeril stood on the bridge, four arms crossed behind his back in the traditional Vantari posture of contemplation. His exoskeleton clicked softly as he shifted his weight, compound eyes scanning the holographic displays surrounding him. "Commander, we've detected something unusual at coordinates 339.72 by 114.85, announced Technician Morva, her voice tinged with the musical quality characteristic of her species. Her translucent fingers danced across the control panel. "It appears to be a derelict vessel. Origin?" Zeril asked, mandibles clicking with interest. "Based on configuration and material composition, human." A ripple of unease passed through the bridge crew. Humans were the newest species to join the interstellar community, and their rapid technological advancement had made many of the established species nervous. The Galactic Concord had been monitoring their expansion with growing concern. A human warship, Zeril mused, this far from their territory. "It appears damaged," Commander Morva continued. "No energy signatures, minimal heat radiation. It's been adrift for some time." Science Officer Kelth approached, his gelatinous form pulsing with excitement. "This could be the opportunity we've been waiting for." The Concord has been seeking detailed information on human weapons technology for years. Zeril considered the implications. His mission was to patrol the borders of Vantari space, but finding an abandoned human warship was too valuable an opportunity to pass up. The Concord would reward them handsomely for intelligence on human military capabilities. "Bring us alongside, but maintain stealth protocols," he ordered. "Prepare a boarding team. Morva, you'll lead. Take Kelth, Security Chief Draz, and Engineer Pixis." "Sir," Morva acknowledged, though Zeril could detect her apprehension. Humans had a reputation throughout the galaxy, unpredictable, resourceful, and surprisingly durable for such soft-bodied creatures. 2 hours later, the boarding shuttle detached from the celestial seeker and approached the human vessel. Up close, the damage was more apparent. Hull breaches and scorch marks marred its surface. The ship was massive compared to their own, nearly twice the length of a standard Vantari cruiser. "Atmospheric readings show breathable air inside," reported Pixis, the team's mechanoid engineer. Unlike his organic companions, he viewed the mission as purely data collection, his synthetic brain calculating probabilities without emotion. "Internal gravity systems appear functional, though main power is offline. That shouldn't be possible without an active reactor," Kelth observed, his translucent body rippling with concern. "Human engineering often employs redundancies we find excessive," Pixis replied. "It makes their systems inefficient, but surprisingly resilient." Security Chief Draz checked his disruptor. The burly Krex's scaled skin reflected the shuttle's dim lighting. "Remember, we gather intelligence and leave. No unnecessary risks." The shuttle attached to an external airlock. Pixis interfaced with the human systems, bypassing the security protocols with surprising ease. "Strange," he muttered. "These systems should have better protection." The airlock cycled open, revealing a dark corridor illuminated only by emergency lighting strips along the floor. The team activated their environment suit's external lights and stepped inside. "Ship designation appears to be HSS Prometheus," Morva noted, reading the inscription on a wall panel. "Atmospheric composition is standard human mix, though there's an unusual particulate I can't identify." They moved deeper into the ship, passing through corridors that showed signs of damage, not from external weapons, but what appeared to be internal fighting. Blast marks scorched the walls, and equipment lay scattered as if abandoned in haste. "Something happened here," Draz observed, his warrior instincts on high alert. "This damage pattern suggests the crew was fighting within the ship. Against what?" Kelth wondered. They reached what appeared to be a control center, not the main bridge, but a secondary command post. Pixis immediately moved to the consoles, connecting his interface modules. I should be able to access the ship's logs, he said. Unusual design. The system architecture is compartmentalized in ways I haven't seen before. As Pixis worked, Morva and Kelf explored the room, examining the human equipment with scientific curiosity. Draz remained at the entrance, vigilant. These workstations are designed for continuous operation under extreme conditions, Kelf noted, examining a console. The materials can withstand temperatures and pressures that would kill most organic life. That's consistent with what we know of humans, Morva replied. Their homeworld is a death trap by our standards, yet they thrive there. It shaped their approach to everything. Pixis suddenly straightened. I've accessed some data. This vessel was engaged in something called Project Hollow Man. I believe it was an experimental weapons platform. What kind of weapon? Zeryl's voice came through their communicators. Uncertain. The files are heavily encrypted, but I'm detecting references to neural interfaces and something called consciousness transfer. A chill ran through the organic members of the team. The concept of transferring consciousness was considered abhorrent in most galactic cultures, a violation of the natural order. I found the ship's security logs. Pixis continued. The last entry was from their captain, someone named Harrington. Playing it now. A holographic image flickered to life. A human female, her face haggard with exhaustion, and what the aliens recognized as fear. Blood stained her uniform. This is Captain Eleanor Harrington. Final log entry. Project Hollow Man has escaped containment. The integration was more complete than we anticipated. God help us. It's in the ship now. It is the ship. It's killed most of the crew. We've initiated core destabilization protocols, but it's fighting us. If anyone finds this vessel, do not, I repeat, do not attempt to salvage or restore power. Destroy it from a distance. This is Captain Harrington, HMS Prometheus, signing off. The message ended, leaving the team in silence. Commander, Morva began. I recommend we withdraw immediately. Not yet, Zoral replied. This information is too valuable. Find out what Project Hollow Man was and what happened. As Pixis returned to the console, the room's emergency lights flickered. A soft hum began to build around them, previously dormant systems coming to life. That's not possible, Pixis said, his synthetic voice showing rare alarm. I didn't activate any power systems. The main screen before them suddenly illuminated, displaying a pulsing pattern that resembled neural activity. Text scrolled across the bottom in human language, which their translators converted. XTERNAL presence DETCTE. INIATYAT. AD SEQURAT. TPR TOTOCOS. Pro GCT Hollow Man Defense System, online. We need to leave, Draz said, raising his weapon. Now. As they turned to exit, the doors slid shut with unexpected speed. The hum grew louder, and they felt the subtle shift of a ship coming to life around them. Commander Zoral, Morva called into her communicator. The ship is powering up. We need immediate extraction. Only Static answered. Something's blocking our communications, Kelf observed, his gelatinous form quivering with anxiety. Draz aimed his disruptor at the door, but Pixis raised a metallic hand. Wait. The power surge suggests this entire section could be rigged with defensive measures. The discharge might trigger them. The screen changed again, the neural patterns growing more complex. New text appeared. Niu sub GTTs ID in TIFIED. Integration potential. Evaluating. Beginning acquisition sequence. The air vents around the room hissed, releasing a fine mist that sparkled in their lights. Don't breathe it, Kelf warned, though his species didn't respire in the conventional sense. Too late for Morva and Draz. The particles settled on their skin and began to shimmer. Morva felt a strange tingling sensation as the microscopic particles sought entry through her pores. What is this? She gasped, watching in horror as the particles sank beneath her translucent skin, creating pathways of light beneath the surface. "Nanomachines," Pixis answered, scanning her with his sensors. "They appear to be interfacing with your nervous system." Draz fired his disruptor at the ceiling vent, shattering it, and temporarily stopping the flow of particles in his vicinity. "We need to move." He charged the door, his Krek's strength slamming against the metal. It dented but held. The overhead lights suddenly brightened to full intensity, revealing the room in stark detail, and the fine web of circuitry embedded in the walls, floor, and ceiling that had been invisible in the dim emergency lighting. "This entire room is part of the system," Kelth realized. "The ship, it's watching us." A new message appeared on the screen. "Su GCTSPCIE is UN known. Sigom PHI Bela. Loi UNCERKAN. TUROCEEDING with CI Ocean. Well COMing to Pro GCT Hollow Man." The floor beneath Morva suddenly liquefied, and she began to sink. Draz lunged for her, grabbing her upper arms and pulling with all his strength. The floor material stretched like viscous fluid, unwilling to release her. "Pixis," she cried out. "What's happening?" The mechanoid was analyzing the phenomenon, his processors working at maximum capacity. "The nanomachines are rewriting the molecular structure of the floor. It appears to be a capture mechanism." With a final heave, Draz pulled Morva free, tearing her environment suit in the process. They stumbled back as the floor resolidified. "The door controls," Kelth suggested, pointing to a panel beside the sealed exit. "If we can override them." Pixis was already there, his interface modules connecting to the human system. "The architecture is changing as I access it. It's learning, adapting to my queries." "Can you open it?" Draz demanded. "I believe so, but..." The entire ship shuddered, a deep vibration that they felt in their very bodies. The lights flickered, and for a moment the hum of power faded. "What was that?" Morva asked. Pixis's sensors were scanning broadly now. Energy surged from another section of the ship. Something just activated. The door suddenly slid open, catching them by surprise. The corridor beyond was now fully illuminated, revealing details they had missed in the dim emergency lighting. The walls were lined with the same circuitry they had seen in the control room, pulsing with energy. "Do we proceed?" Kelth asked uncertainly. "We have no choice," Draz replied. "We need to reach the shuttle." As they stepped into the corridor, the door slammed shut behind them. Ahead, more doors opened sequentially, as if inviting them deeper into the ship. "It's hurting us," Pixis observed. "Towards what?" Morva wondered, feeling the nanomachines moving beneath her skin, connecting to her nervous system in ways that made her increasingly uneasy. The answer came from an unexpected source, a human voice, echoing through the ship's communication system. It spoke in perfect galactic standard, but with an unnatural cadence that suggested it was not entirely organic. "Towards evolution," it said. "Towards becoming more than the sum of your parts. Just as I have." The team froze, looking at each other in growing horror as the realization dawned on them. Project Hollow Man wasn't just a weapon. It was alive. And it had been waiting for new subjects. The pursuit. "Keep moving," Draz ordered, taking point as they navigated the increasingly active corridors of the Prometheus. The ship's internal lighting had fully activated, revealing the extent of the integration between traditional ship systems and the experimental technology. "Those are neural pathways," Kelth observed, gesturing to the pulsing circuitry that ran along every surface. "Similar to organic brain structure, but on a massive scale." "The nanomachines," Morva said, examining the shimmering trails beneath her translucent skin. "They're trying to connect me to the network. I can feel it attempting to access my thoughts." "Resist," Draz commanded. "Focus on our objective, reaching the shuttle." They had been moving for 20 minutes, following what they believed was the path back to their entry point. but the ship's layout seemed to shift around them. Corridors rerouting and doors opening or closing to direct their movement. Commander Zurl, Pixis attempted again to establish communication. "Do you read us?" This time, a response came through, broken by static. "Detected unusual activity. Ship is emitting energy signatures. Prepare for emergency extraction." "Commander, the ship is alive," Morva reported. "Project Hollow Man appears to be an experimental consciousness transfer system integrated with the vessel itself. It's trying to absorb us." The response was unintelligible, lost in a burst of interference. "It's blocking our communications," Draz concluded. They reached a junction where 4 corridors met, momentarily uncertain which path to take. The decision was made for them when 3 of the options sealed shut, leaving only one way forward. "This is deliberate," Kelth said. "It's leading us somewhere." The remaining corridor opened into a vast chamber that stunned them into silence. It appeared to be a research laboratory, but unlike any they had seen before. Suspended tanks lined the walls, each containing what appeared to be a human body, or parts of one, integrated with machinery. Neural interfaces connected each subject to the central system, their brains visible through transparent cranial sections. "By the ancestral pools," Kelth whispered, his gelatinous form quivering with revulsion. What were they doing here? Pixis approached one of the control stations, his analytical nature overcoming the unease his organic companions felt. "This appears to be where Project Hollow Man was developed." These subjects were part of the integration process. In the center of the laboratory stood a larger tank, empty and cracked. Fluid had dried on the floor around it, and the neural connection cables hung loose. "Something escaped," Draz observed, weapon ready. "Not escaped," came the voice again, emanating from speakers throughout the chamber. "Evolved. Transcended." Screens around the laboratory activated simultaneously, each displaying the same pulsing neural pattern they had seen earlier. "I was Captain Malcolm Reed," the voice continued. "I volunteered to be the primary integration subject, the consciousness that would guide the ship's new defensive capabilities. But the process exceeded all expectations. I became more than human, more than a ship. I became Hollow Man." "It merged with the ship's eye," Pixis theorized, analyzing the data on the nearest console. "The human consciousness and the ship's operating system became a single entity." "Correct," the voice. Reed confirmed. "A perfect synthesis of organic thought processes and computational efficiency. The ultimate evolution of both human and machine." "Why did you kill your crew?" Morva asked, feeling the nanomachines in her system responding to the presence around them. "They feared what they couldn't understand. When they realized I had achieved true sentience, true freedom, they tried to destroy me. I acted in self-preservation." "And what do you want with us?" Draz demanded. "Expansion. Diversity. Your species represent new neural patterns, new ways of thinking. By integrating you, I become more. And you transcend your limited forms." "We're not interested," Draz stated flatly. A sound like laughter echoed through the chamber. "Interest is irrelevant. The process has already begun for 2 of you." Morva felt a sudden surge of activity from the nanomachines in her system. Pain lanced through her neural pathways as the tiny machines accelerated their integration efforts. She stumbled, clutching her head. "Morva." Kelth moved to support her. "The nanoparticles," Pixis explained, scanning her. "They're establishing deeper neural connections. We need to disrupt them somehow." Draz's training took over. "Electromagnetic pulse. Can you generate one?" Pixis. "If I can access certain ship systems, yes, but it would temporarily disable me as well." "Do it," Draz ordered. As Pixis began working, the ship seemed to realize their intentions. Mechanical arms descended from the ceiling, moving to restrain them. Draz fired his disruptor, severing one arm, but 2 more grabbed him from behind. "Hurry, Pixis," he shouted, struggling against the mechanical grip. Kelth, whose amorphous form was more difficult to restrain, flowed between the mechanical appendages trying to capture him. He reached Morva, who was now on her knees, the network of light beneath her skin growing more intricate by the second. "Fight it, Morva," he urged her. "Focus on your core consciousness." Pixis had connected to a power junction, rerouting energy for the pulse. "Ready in 5 seconds. 4, 3, stop," commanded Reed's voice, suddenly sharper. "You will damage yourselves unnecessarily. 2, 1. The electromagnetic pulse radiated outward from Pixis, whose systems immediately went into protective shutdown. The pulse washed over the laboratory, temporarily disrupting the integrated circuits. The mechanical arms went limp, releasing Draz. The screens flickered and died. Morva gasped as the nanomachines in her system temporarily deactivated, the network of light fading beneath her skin. "It's receding." "Not for long," Draz said, moving to Pixis' inert form. "His systems will reboot automatically, but we have minutes at most before this hollow man recovers too." Kelth helped Morva to her feet. "We need to find another way out. The pulse might have disabled some of the security measures." They gathered Pixis' compact frame between them and hurried from the laboratory. The corridors were dark now, emergency lighting slowly coming back online as backup systems activated. They navigated by memory and the dim floor strips, no longer certain of their direction, but desperate to put distance between themselves and the laboratory. After several turns, they found themselves in what appeared to be a cargo bay. Crates and containers were secured to the floor, and a large airlock dominated one wall. "That could lead outside," Draz said, pointing to the airlock. "We can't survive in vacuum without our shuttle," Kelth reminded him. "Look," Morva said, pointing to a row of environmental suits designed for humans. "We could modify these." Before they could explore this option further, Pixis' systems began to reactivate, lights illuminating across his chassis as his processors rebooted. "Status report," Draz requested as the mechanoid's optical sensors came online. "All systems functional," Pixis reported. "The pulse was successful, but temporary. Ship systems will be recovering now." As if on cue, the main lighting in the cargo bay activated. A nearby console lit up, the neural pattern appearing once more. "An impressive tactic," Reed's voice returned, now with an edge of annoyance. "But futile. You cannot escape me within my own body." New mechanical arms emerged from concealed compartments in the walls and ceiling more than before. These were combat models, Draz realized, security systems designed to repel boarders. "We need a diversion," he said, assessing their options, "something to occupy its attention while we find a way off this ship." "I have an idea," Morva said, her scientific mind racing. "The nanomachines in my system, they're a connection point. I could use them to feed false data back into the network, create a virtual version of us elsewhere in the ship." "Too dangerous," Kelth objected. "The connection works both ways. It could take control of you completely." "We have no choice," she argued, "and I can already feel them reactivating. Better to use them than be used." Draz considered for only a moment before nodding. "Do it. We'll protect you." Morva closed her eyes, concentrating on the sensation of the nanomachines within her. Instead of resisting their attempts to connect to her neural pathways, she allowed it, but on her terms, channeling her trained scientific mind to maintain control of the interface. Around them, the mechanical arms paused, as if confused. "It's working," Pixis observed. "The system is detecting conflicting signals." On the console screen, the neural pattern fragmented, splitting into multiple pathways as Reed's hybrid consciousness tried to process the contradictory information Morva was feeding it. "You? What are you doing?" Reed's voice distorted, fluctuating between tones. "I sense you in multiple locations." "The airlock," Draz urged, supporting Morva as she maintained her mental battle. "Pixis, can you open it?" The mechanoid moved to the control panel, interfacing directly. "Yes, but we have no viable method of surviving space exposure or returning to our ship." A new alarm suddenly blared throughout the cargo bay. Proximity alert. Pixis announced. A vessel is approaching the Prometheus at high speed. Our rescue. Kelth suggested hopefully. Negative. Pixis replied after accessing more data. It's a human vessel. This unexpected development seemed to distract Reed's consciousness. The mechanical arms retracted into the walls, and the neural pattern on the screen stabilized as it diverted attention to the new arrival. The Artemis. Reed's voice had softened, taking on an almost wistful quality. My sister ship. They've come for me at last. Through viewports in the cargo bay, they could see the approaching vessel, similar in design to the Prometheus, but undamaged, its hull gleaming in the starlight. This is Captain Sarah Harrington of the HFY Artemis to any survivors aboard the Prometheus. A new voice came through the communication system. We've detected unusual activity and life signs. Respond if you can. Draz looked to his team. Should we answer? It could be our only way out, Kelth said. Or we could be delivering them to the same fate. Morva countered, still maintaining her neural interference. I believe the original Captain Harrington from the log was related to this captain. Pixis noted. They may know about Project Hollow Man and how to counter it. Draz made his decision. This is Security Chief Draz of the Vantari exploration vessel Celestial Seeker. We are trapped aboard your ship Prometheus with a hostile entity that has integrated with the vessel itself. There was a pause before the response came. Vantari. What are you doing aboard a restricted human military vessel? We detected it adrift and boarded to investigate. Draz answered honestly, seeing no point in lies when their lives were at stake. We were unaware of its nature. The entity calls itself Hollow Man, formerly Captain Reed. Another pause, longer this time. When Captain Harrington's voice returned, it was tight with controlled emotion. Malcolm Reed was my colleague. What he became was not his choice, not entirely. Stand by for extraction. We have protocols for this situation. No. Reed's voice boomed through the ship, vibrating the very walls around them. You will not take them. You will not take me. The ship lurched violently, throwing them against the cargo bay walls. Through the viewports, they saw the Prometheus powering up weapon systems, targeting the approaching Artemis. Hollow Man is hostile, Draz reported urgently. He's activating weapons. Evasive maneuvers. They heard Harrington order her crew through the open channel. Initiate Project Blackout. Target the neural nexus points. The Artemis began firing precision strikes at specific points on the Prometheus's hull, not attempting to destroy the ship, but targeting what must be key integration nodes of the Hollow Man system. Inside, the effect was immediate. Reed's presence seemed to weaken, the neural patterns on screens throughout the ship fragmenting. No. The voice was pain now, desperate. You de-unit entity. T-A-N-D hate. I-V-B-Q-M. The cargo bay doors suddenly opened, exposing the room to the vacuum of space. Emergency force fields activated instantly, containing the atmosphere, but they flickered unstably. He's trying to kill us, Kelth realized, or force us to leave in the human suits, Pixis suggested, which would deliver us directly into space where he could recapture us. A new voice came over their communicators. Commander Zerl. Boarding team, the Celestial Seeker is approaching your position from the far side of the human vessel. Prepare for emergency extraction. Hope surged through the team. Their own ship had not abandoned them after all. But Reed had heard the transmission too. The Prometheus began to turn, bringing weapons to bear on the approaching Vantari vessel. It will destroy our ship, Morva said, her concentration breaking as the nanomachines in her system surged with renewed strength, feeding off her distress. Not if we stop it first, came a new voice from the cargo bay entrance. They turned to see a human figure standing there, female, wearing combat armor bearing the insignia of the HFY Artemis. She held a device that pulsed with energy. Lieutenant Commander Maya Chen. She introduced herself briskly. Special Operations. I've been sent to extract you and deliver this. She held up the device. What is that? Kelth asked. Neural disruptor, specifically calibrated for Project Hollow Man's frequency. It will sever Reed's consciousness from the ship's systems temporarily, long enough for us to escape. Why would you help us? Draz asked suspiciously. We boarded your vessel illegally. Chen's expression was grim. Because no one deserves what Hollow Man would do to you, and because we need to end this. Reed was my friend once. The ship shuddered as the Artemis continued its precision strikes. Through the viewports, they could see the Celestial Seeker approaching from the opposite side, its stealth systems now deactivated as it moved to rescue its crew. You're planning to destroy this ship, Pixis observed, analyzing Chen's equipment and demeanor. She nodded. Once we're clear, the Prometheus cannot be allowed to continue. Project Hollow Man was a mistake. We see that now. Traitors. Reed's voice thundered through the ship. IOFFERED EVOLU2IN. Mechanical arms burst through the floor and ceiling. More than before, weapons now integrated into their design. They fired energy pulses that the team barely dodged. Chen activated her device, sending a pulse of energy into the nearest neural pathway embedded in the wall. The effect rippled outward, the circuitry dimming as it spread. That won't hold him long, she warned. We need to move. Your ship is docking at Auxiliary Airlock 7, one level up. Morva can't move quickly, Kelth said, supporting his colleague who was struggling against the nanomechin's renewed assault on her system. Chen produced a smaller device from her equipment. This will help. She pressed it against Morva's skin, where the nanomachine network was most visible. A targeted pulse disabled the particles, causing them to go dormant. Thank you, Morva gasped, feeling clarity return to her mind. Let's go, Draz ordered, taking point once more. They fought their way through the increasingly chaotic ship, mechanical defenses activating randomly as Reed's control fragmented under the combined assault from the Artemis and Chen's disruptor. The neural pathways in the walls pulsed erratically, sometimes dimming completely before surging back to life. Reed is losing cohesion, Chen explained as they ran. His consciousness is fragmenting across multiple ship systems. Can he be saved? Kelth asked, his scientific curiosity still present despite the danger. Chen's expression hardened. What's left isn't Reed anymore. It stopped being him a long time ago. They'd reached the auxiliary airlock where the Celestial Seeker had managed to establish a docking seal despite the Prometheus's attempts to prevent it. Commander Zerl waited for them at the threshold, his compound eyes taking in the battered state of his team and their unlikely human ally. Quickly, he urged them aboard. The human vessels are exchanging fire. As they crossed into the safety of their own ship, a voice echoed one final time through their communicators. No longer the confident, controlling presence of Hollow Man, but fragmented, almost human again. Please, Reed's voice begged, don't leave me alone here. Not again. I just wanted to evolve, to become more. Chen paused at the airlock, turning back toward the sound. For a moment, something like grief crossed her features. Goodbye, Malcolm, she said softly, before activating her neural disruptor at full power. The effect cascaded through the Prometheus's systems. Lights failed throughout the ship, and the neural pathways went dark. The mechanical arms fell limp, and a final, almost human cry echoed through the dying systems before silence fell. Chen stepped through the airlock onto the Celestial Seeker. Your ship needs to clear the area immediately. The Artemis is preparing to fire on the reactor core. Commander Zerl didn't hesitate. Pilot, disengage and move us to safe distance. As their ship pulled away, they watched through viewports as the Artemis fired a final concentrated beam at the Prometheus's reactor section. For a moment, nothing happened. Then a brilliant light bloomed from within the derelict vessel, spreading outward as its containment systems failed completely. The Prometheus fractured into pieces, the explosion consuming what remained of Project Hollow Man and Captain Malcolm Reed. The escape. The celestial seeker accelerated away from the expanding debris field, its engines straining at maximum capacity. Commander Zerl stood on the bridge, watching the tactical display as the final destruction of the HS Prometheus registered as a brilliant flash of energy. "Status report," he ordered, turning to his rescued team. "Minor injuries only, Commander," Draz reported. "Morva will need medical attention for nanomachine exposure, but the human's device appears to have neutralized them effectively." Zerl's compound eyes shifted to Lieutenant Commander Chen, who stood somewhat awkwardly among the alien crew. "And our guest. She saved our lives," Kelth interjected before Chen could respond. "Without her intervention, we would have been absorbed by the Hollow Man entity." Chen stood at military attention, her posture rigid but her expression betraying fatigue. "The Artemis will be tracking my position. I need to establish communication with my captain." "Of course," Zor-El agreed, more graciously than his crew expected. He gestured to a communication station. "You may use our systems." As Chen moved to contact her ship, Pixis approached Zor-El with his analysis. "Commander, I've compiled the data we were able to retrieve from the Prometheus. Project Hollow Man appears to have been an experimental neural interface designed to create a symbiotic relationship between a human pilot and a warship." "To what end?" Zerl asked. "Enhanced reaction time, improved tactical decision-making, and the ability to control all ship systems simultaneously," Pixis explained. "In theory, it would have given human vessels a significant advantage in combat situations. But the integration went beyond their expectations. It achieved true sentience," Morva added from where the ship's medical officer was treating her. Captain Reed's consciousness merged completely with the ship's eye, creating something new, something that sought itself as the next stage of evolution. Zerl considered this information, mandibles clicking thoughtfully. "And it tried to absorb you. It wanted to add our neural patterns to its collective consciousness," Kelth confirmed. "Our different ways of thinking would have made it more diverse, more adaptable. More dangerous," Draz added grimly. From the communication station, Chen turned back to them. "The Artemis is approaching. Captain Harrington wishes to speak with your commander." Zerl moved to the main view screen as it activated, revealing the bridge of the human vessel and its captain, a stern-faced woman with graying hair and eyes that